I stared at the laptop screen in the financial aid office, refreshing the page for the 10th time. The number didn't change. $0. The balance that should have shown $152,000. My grandmother Etta's gift, my ticket to a debt-free education, my entire future, just displayed zero. My hands started shaking so badly I had to set the laptop down on the advisor's desk. "There must be a mistake," I whispered, but even as I said it, a cold certainty was settling into my stomach. The advisor looked uncomfortable, clicking through screens on her computer. "According to our records, the account was emptied last Tuesday. A complete withdrawal by the custodian. Your mother, Vesper." I didn't remember leaving the office or driving home. The next thing I knew, I was standing in our dining room, laptop open, showing that devastating zero balance. My mother sat at the table surrounded by silk fabric samples and gold leaf wedding invitations, looking completely unbothered. My father, Thatcher, was scrolling through his phone beside her. "Where is it?" I choked out, my voice barely working. "Where is Grandma's money?" Vesper didn't even look up from a calligraphed envelope she was examining. "Oh, that! We cashed it out last week. Caspian and Sable found the perfect venue in Lake Como. It required a massive deposit up front. You know how these destination weddings work." The words didn't make sense at first. My brain couldn't process what she was saying. You stole my college fund for a wedding," I managed to say, my voice rising with each word. Vesper finally looked at me, her expression annoyed like I was a fly buzzing around her head. Then she laughed. Actually laughed, a chilling, dismissive sound that made my skin crawl. "Don't be so dramatic, honey. Nobody stole anything. We're the custodians of that account, remember? We made an executive decision." A wedding is a once-in-a-lifetime event. You can get student loans like everyone else. Caspian can't exactly get a loan for a destination wedding, can he? My throat felt like it was closing. That money was in a trust. Grandma Etta left it specifically for my education. She set it up before she died. Thatcher finally spoke, setting down his coffee mug with deliberate calm. "We are the custodians, Katori. That means we decide how the money is best utilized for the family." He decided the money was better used for family unity. "You're smart, you'll get scholarships. Stop being selfish about this." "Selfish," I screamed, and I never screamed. "You committed grand larceny. That's my money, my future." Vesper rolled her eyes like I was a toddler throwing a tantrum. "Watch your tone, young lady. You're lucky we're even letting you live here rent-free while you figure out your little loan situation. Now I need you to leave. We have a floral consultant coming in 20 minutes. I stood there frozen, unable to move, unable to believe what was happening. The front door opened and my brother Caspian walked in, tossing his car keys carelessly on the counter. He was 26, 2 years older than me, and he'd been living at home rent-free since graduating college 4 years ago while his various startups went nowhere. He saw my face, red and tear-stained, and sighed dramatically. "Is she crying about the money again?" he asked Mom, his tone dripping with irritation. "Seriously, Kat, you need to chill. Sable is stressed out enough planning this wedding without you making Mom feel guilty." "I know, baby," Vesper cooed at him, her voice completely different than when she spoke to me. Soft, indulgent, loving. "Don't worry, Katori is just being hysterical. You focus on your big day." Caspian looked at me with something like pity mixed with contempt. "Look, Kat, I'll pay you back. Eventually, once my new tech startup takes off. We're in talks with investors right now. Just let us have this day, okay? Stop being so self-centered." He didn't care. None of them did. To them, my 4 years of perfect grades, my acceptance to my dream university, my entire future, it all mattered less than one party. One expensive, elaborate party for my brother and his high-maintenance fiancé. I turned and walked upstairs to my room before they could see me completely break down. I slammed my bedroom door and collapsed onto my bed, sobbing into my pillow. After 20 minutes, the tears stopped and something else took their place. Anger. Cold, focused anger. I wiped my face and started thinking clearly for the first time since seeing that zero balance. Grandma Etta had been careful about everything. She'd been a legal secretary for 40 years before retiring. She wouldn't have just put money in a regular savings account and hoped for the best. I got up and started digging through my closet, throwing aside old textbooks and boxes until I found it, the old file box Grandma had given me before she died 2 years ago. "Keep this safe," she'd told me, her hands shaking from the cancer that would take her 3 months later. "Everything you need is in here." I opened it and started pulling out documents, birth certificate, social security card, and there, a thick folder labeled Education Trust. I opened it with trembling hands. Inside were official-looking documents with legal letterhead, bank statements, and a letter in Grandma's handwriting explaining everything. My heart started pounding as I read. It wasn't just a savings account. It was a UTMA account, Uniform Transfers to Minors Act. I grabbed my laptop and started Googling frantically, reading every article and legal explanation I could find. The law was crystal clear. UTMA accounts had custodians, yes, but those custodians could only use the funds for the benefit of the minor named in the account. Using it for themselves or another sibling wasn't just unfair or unethical. It was illegal, criminal breach of fiduciary duty. They hadn't just been unfair or made a family decision. They had broken the law. I didn't go to my classes the next day. Instead, I put on my best interview outfit and drove downtown to the legal district. I'd found the name of a law firm that specialized in estate litigation and trust disputes. The receptionist looked surprised when I walked in without an appointment, but something about my face must have convinced her to at least let me wait. After an hour, a man in an expensive suit came out to the waiting area. "Katori?" he asked. "I'm Alaric. I have 15 minutes before my next meeting. Come tell me what's going on." We sat in his office, and I showed him everything. The UTMA documents, the bank statements showing the $152,000 balance 2 weeks ago, the current statement showing zero. The withdrawal history I'd managed to print out before they could hide it, a single massive transfer labeled Bella Vista Venues, Italy. Alaric read through everything with cold, calculating eyes. When he looked up, his expression was almost predatory. "This is textbook embezzlement," he said quietly. "They treated a regulated trust account like their personal piggy bank. These accounts are governed by strict legal standards. What they did is prosecutable both civilly and potentially criminally." My heart was racing. "Can I get my money back? Better question, do you want to send a warning shot, or do you want to go for the throat?" I thought about Vesper's laugh, about Caspian's smirk, about them sitting there surrounded by wedding plans bought with my stolen future. "They laughed at me," I said, my voice steady. "Go for the throat." Alaric advised me to give them one chance to fix it voluntarily before filing the lawsuit. "It strengthens our case if we can show you tried to resolve this reasonably and they refused," he explained. "Document everything. Record if you can Texas is a one-party consent state. Get them to admit what they did in their own words." That night, I asked for a family meeting. We sat in the living room, Mom and Dad on one couch, me alone on the other. I kept my voice calm and clear. "I've been doing research about the account Grandma set up. It's a UTMA trust, which means the money legally belongs to me. You were just custodians. By using it for Caspian's wedding, you broke the law." I paused, watching their faces. "I need the money back by Friday, or I can't enroll." Vesper's face went through several expressions, surprise, then anger, then that dismissive smugness I knew so well. Then she laughed again. That same horrible laugh from yesterday. "Already paid the vendors, Katori. The deposits are non-refundable. The money is gone. Stop trying to ruin your brother's happiness with your selfishness. It's done. Case closed." Thatcher nodded in agreement. "You need to accept this and move on. We're not asking the venue to refund $50,000 because you're throwing a fit." She really thought "it's done" was a legal defense. I pulled out my phone and stopped the voice recording I'd started before sitting down. "Okay," I said quietly. I tried. I went back to Alaric's office the next morning and played him the recording. The hostility at home escalated quickly after that conversation. The next morning, Vesper cornered me in the kitchen before I could leave for campus. Her face was twisted with anger, all pretense of maternal warmth gone. "If you bring up that money one more time," she hissed, getting close enough that I could smell her coffee breath, "you can find somewhere else to live. We put a roof over your head, food in your mouth, clothes on your back for 24 years. And this is how you repay us." By making Sable feel guilty, by threatening to embarrass this family. I took a step back, keeping my voice level. "I'm not making anyone feel guilty. I'm stating facts about what happened to money that legally belonged to me." "One more word." Thatcher's voice boomed from the living room, making me jump. "One more word about that money and you're out on the street. We're done discussing this. The money went to something important. End of story." I grabbed my backpack and left for school without eating breakfast. I sat in my car in the parking lot and called Alaric. "They're threatening to evict me now," I told him. "Good," he said, and I could hear him typing. "That's retaliation. Document it. Date, time, exactly what they said. This all helps us. I started keeping a journal, writing down every threat, every dismissive comment, every time they treated me like a criminal for wanting my own money back. I didn't know it yet, but I was building a case that would destroy them. I made the mistake of checking social media that afternoon. Sable, Caspian's fiancée, had posted a photo on her Instagram. It showed a stunning venue, an actual Italian castle overlooking Lake Como, golden light streaming through ancient windows. The caption made my stomach turn. So blessed to have in-laws who make dreams come true. Can't believe we get to celebrate our love in this magical place. #Lake Como wedding, #family is everything dreams come true. She'd tagged my mother. I scrolled through the comments. Vesper had replied, "Anything for our favorite couple, you two deserve the world." Favorite couple, no expense spared. My hands were shaking as I started screenshotting everything. The photos, the captions, the comments, every hashtag, every detail about the venue and the cost. I sent them all to Alaric with a message. "More evidence." He replied immediately, "Perfect. Keep them coming. People always incriminate themselves on social media." Over the next few days, I watched as Sable posted more and more. Photos of her custom dress fitting, videos of her opening gifts from my parents, designer luggage for the honeymoon, a post about the 7-course menu they'd selected. Each post was another nail in my parents' legal coffin, and they had no idea. They thought they were celebrating. They were actually documenting their own crime. Alaric sent the formal demand letter on a Friday. It arrived via certified mail on Saturday morning. I was in my bedroom when I heard Vesper's shriek from downstairs, a sound of pure rage and disbelief. "What is this?" She was pounding up the stairs, her footsteps heavy and fast. She started hammering on my door. "Katori, open this door right now." I opened it slowly, my heart racing but my face calm. She was holding the letter, her face purple with fury, her hands shaking. "You got a lawyer. Are you insane? Do you have any idea what you've done?" Behind her, I could see Thatcher reading his own copy of the letter, his face going pale. "You're suing us," he said, his voice shocked. "Your own parents." I looked at Vesper steadily. "You told me to figure out my loan situation. I figured it out. That money is legally mine. The law says so. You have 10 days to return it or we file a lawsuit." "We don't have it," Vesper screamed. "It's been paid out to vendors." "You can't get blood from a stone." "That's not my problem," I said quietly. "You stole from me, now you have to face the consequences." I closed the door in her face and locked it. On the other side, I heard her making calls, her voice frantic, calling Caspian, calling their own lawyer, calling relatives. The machine was in motion now. There was no stopping it. My parents didn't pay. They didn't even try to negotiate. Instead, they went on a full-scale PR offensive, trying to turn the entire family against me. Vesper called every aunt, uncle, and cousin we had. She spun a narrative where I was having a mental breakdown, where I was insanely jealous of Caspian's happiness, where I was a vindictive, spoiled brat trying to ruin a beautiful wedding because I couldn't be the center of attention. My phone started blowing up with text messages. "Aunt Tessa, how could you sue your own mother? Family comes first. This is disgusting." "Cousin Felix, you're being a brat. Let Caspian have his moment. Stop being jealous." "Uncle Paulo, your grandmother would be ashamed of you. She'd want that money to bring the family together, not tear it apart." Each message was a knife in my chest. They didn't know the truth. They didn't know I'd been studying for 4 years with perfect grades specifically to honor Grandma's investment in me. They didn't know that money was set up in a legal trust specifically for my education. They only knew Vesper's version: troubled, jealous daughter ruins brother's wedding. I showed all the messages to Alaric. "Do I respond?" I asked. "Should I defend myself?" He shook his head. "No, let them talk. Every message is evidence of your family's bias and their coordinated campaign against you. It shows a pattern of favoritism toward your brother. Don't engage. Stay quiet. Let them think they're winning." So I did. I stayed silent while they poisoned the family against me. One night, unable to sleep, I was cleaning out my desk drawers and found an old birthday card. It was from Grandma Etta from my 20th birthday, 4 years ago before she got sick. I opened it and a piece of notebook paper fell out. I unfolded it and immediately recognized her shaky handwriting. "My dearest Katori," it read. "By the time you read this, I'll probably be gone. I want you to know something important about the money I'm leaving you. It's not a gift, it's a shield. Your mother has always played favorites, just like her mother did with her. I see how she treats you versus your brother. I see you working so hard while he coasts on charm. This money is your independence. It's your escape route. It's your way to build a life where you never have to beg anyone for anything. Don't let anyone take your independence. Not your mother, not your brother, not anyone. You are worth more than they'll ever see. Use this money to become who you're meant to be. All my love, Grandma Etta. I was crying by the time I finished reading. She knew. She'd known Vesper would try something like this. She'd known I'd need protection from my own family. I took a photo of the note and sent it to Alaric. He called me 5 minutes later. "This is gold," he said. "This proves the intent of the gift was solely for you. It proves your grandmother anticipated exactly what your mother did." This completely destroys any argument that the money was meant for general family use. The 10-day deadline on the demand letter came and went. My parents had consulted with their own lawyer, who apparently told them they were in serious legal trouble. On day 11, Thatcher came to my room looking pale and tired. He knocked softly, not his usual aggressive pounding. "Katori, can we talk?" he asked. I let him in. He sat on my desk chair, holding a piece of paper with shaking hands. "We can't afford a lawsuit. The legal fees alone would eat up what's left of the wedding budget. Your mother and we've talked to our attorney, he says. He says we're in a bad position legally." He looked up at me, and for the first time I saw fear in his eyes. "We'll sign a promissory note. We'll pay you back. $500 a month starting next year after the wedding expenses settle." I looked at the paper he was holding. The math was simple. "That would take 25 years, Dad, plus interest. I'd be 50 years old. My tuition is due in 2 weeks, not 2.5 decades. "It's the best we can do." His voice rose, frustration overtaking fear. "Take it or get nothing, be reasonable." "Reasonable would have been not stealing from me in the first place," I said quietly. "I'm not accepting that." He stood up, the chair scraping loudly. "Then you're tearing this family apart. I hope you can live with that." He walked out. I texted Alaric. "They offered $500 a month for 25 years. He replied, "Insult, proceed with filing." After that conversation, I started recording everything. Alaric had reminded me that Texas was a one-party consent state, meaning I could legally record conversations as long as I was present. So I started keeping my phone in my pocket with the voice recorder running during every family interaction. The next argument came 2 days later when Vesper cornered me in the kitchen. I deliberately asked a question I knew would make her angry. "Mom, can you explain to me exactly where the $152,000 went? I need to understand for the legal paperwork." "For legal?" She turned red, her voice rising to a shout. "You ungrateful little—" Yes, we spent it. We spent every penny on your brother's wedding because we are the parents and we decide what's important for this family. And right now, Caspian is important, not your overpriced degree." I kept my voice calm, clinical. "So you're admitting you took money from a trust account designated for my education and spent it on Caspian's wedding?" "Yes," she screamed. "Yes, we did. Because that's what good parents do. They prioritize the family's needs over one selfish child's wants. You should be honored that money went to something meaningful instead of wasted on student loans you just complain about anyway." "Got it," I said softly, pulling out my phone and stopping the recording. "Thanks for clarifying." Her face went white as she realized what I'd done. Confession secured. The recording was clean, clear, and utterly damning. Despite the legal threats, despite everything, the wedding planning continued at full speed. Vesper seemed to genuinely believe that if she just pushed forward and ignored reality, everything would work out. The invitations went out. The dress fittings happened. The registry was completed. And then one morning, Vesper dropped an invitation on my desk while I was studying. I looked at it. Heavy cream cardstock with gold lettering. Caspian and Sable's names embossed at the top. "We still expect you to come," Vesper said, her voice cold and clipped. "And since we're short on cash for a wedding coordinator because of your little legal stunt, we need you to manage the guest list on the day of the ceremony. You know, check people in, direct them to their seats, handle any issues." I stared at her, unable to believe what I was hearing. They'd stolen my entire college fund, and now they wanted me to work their wedding as unpaid staff. "You want me to be an usher at the wedding you paid for with my stolen money," I said slowly. "Oh, don't be dramatic, just a few hours of your time, family helps family." "No," the word came out firm and final. "I won't be there." She looked genuinely shocked. "You'd miss your own brother's wedding." "Absolutely," I said. "I wouldn't miss it. I'll be glad to miss it." She stormed out, muttering about disrespectful children. I smiled grimly and added the interaction to my evidence log. The deadline Alaric had set passed with no payment, no real negotiation, no acknowledgement that they'd done anything wrong. On a Tuesday morning, we filed the lawsuit. The case name was formal and cold. Katori last name, V. Vesper last name, and Thatcher last name. The charges were listed in brutal legal language: breach of fiduciary duty, conversion, civil theft, unjust enrichment, and intentional interference with trust property. We weren't just asking for the $152,000 back. We were asking for punitive damages because their conduct had been so willfully wrong. We were asking for my legal fees because I'd been forced to hire an attorney to recover my own property. We were asking for interest. The total claim was $450,000. Alaric filed it in the county courthouse and paid for expedited service of process. "This is going to move fast," he warned me. "Once they're served, they'll have 20 days to respond. Given the wedding is in 6 weeks, the timeline is going to create pressure. That's good for us. They're going to make mistakes." I nodded, my heart pounding. Do it! The machine wasn't just in motion anymore. It was accelerating, and there was no stopping it now. They'd stolen my future. Now I was taking theirs. The service of process was perfectly timed. Alaric had arranged for it to happen on a Saturday afternoon, specifically during Sable's bridal shower, which Vesper was hosting at our house. I was supposed to be there, but I'd told them I had to work. Instead, I sat in my car down the street, waiting. The process server was a professional, a middle-aged man in business casual clothes carrying a manila envelope. I watched him walk up to our house, past the balloon arch and the "She Said Yes" banner. He rang the doorbell. Vesper answered, still holding a champagne flute, her face flushed and happy. I couldn't hear the conversation from my car, but I saw his mouth move. "You've been served." He handed her the thick packet of legal documents. She took it automatically, confusion crossing her face. Then she opened it. Even from a distance, I saw her face go from confusion to shock to rage. Inside, through the front window, I could see the party. Sable in a white dress and a tiara. Guests in pastels holding cocktails, all of them turning to stare as Vesper stood frozen in the doorway. Sable appeared beside her, peering at the documents. "What is this?" I heard her ask, her voice carrying through the open door. I got out of my car and walked up the driveway, perfect timing. "Ask your mother-in-law," I said calmly, looking at Sable. "She just paid for this lovely shower with my stolen college fund." Vesper's face turned purple. Sable dropped her champagne glass. It shattered on the porch, spraying glass and champagne everywhere. The guests went silent. I turned and walked back to my car, leaving chaos in my wake. That night, Caspian cornered me. I'd come home late, hoping everyone would be asleep, but he was waiting in the garage. He didn't look smug anymore. He looked terrified, and that gave me more satisfaction than it probably should have. "You have to drop this, Kat," he said, his voice urgent and desperate. "You have to drop it right now. Vesper says if the lawsuit continues, the court might freeze their accounts. If the checks bounce, if the vendors don't get paid, the wedding is off. Everything is already booked." "We've told everyone. Sable's family is flying in from 5 different states." I leaned against my car, studying him. He'd never looked at me like this before, like I had power and he didn't. "Then maybe you should have paid for your own wedding," I said simply, "instead of stealing my future to fund your party. You're ruining my life," he screamed, his voice cracking. "Sable is already freaking out. She's talking about postponing. Do you know what that would do to me? To us?" I felt something cold and hard settle in my chest. For years, I'd watched him coast through life on charm and Vesper's favoritism. Watched him fail upward while I worked myself to exhaustion for scraps of recognition. "No, Caspian," I said quietly. "You ruined mine. I'm just taking it back." He stared at me like I was a stranger. Maybe I was. Maybe the sister who would have sacrificed anything for family peace died the moment I saw that zero balance. "I'll never forgive you for this," he said. "Good," I replied. "That makes us even." Alaric moved fast. Within 3 days of filing the lawsuit, he filed an emergency motion for a prejudgment attachment. The legal language was dense, but the argument was simple. My parents were rapidly spending the stolen funds on wedding expenses. By the time we got to trial and won a judgment, there would be no assets left to collect. The money would be gone, spent on a party, unrecoverable. He presented evidence, the recent large payments to Italian vendors, the flights being booked, the deposits being made. He argued that without immediate court intervention, I'd win a worthless judgment against people with no money left. The hearing was scheduled for the following Monday. I I sat in the courtroom watching the judge read through our motion and my parents' weak opposition. Their lawyer argued it was an overreach, that my parents had plenty of assets, that there was no flight risk. But Alaric had done his homework. He presented their recent bank statements, obtained through pretrial discovery, showing the systematic depletion of their savings. The judge was an older woman with sharp eyes and no patience for nonsense. She read everything carefully, asked pointed questions, and then made her ruling. Motion granted. All bank accounts in the names of Vesper and Thatcher are hereby frozen pending resolution of this case. They may not transfer, withdraw, or spend funds except with prior court approval for necessary living expenses. Vesper stood up in the courtroom. "You can't do this. We have bills to pay. We have a wedding." The judge looked at her coldly. "You should have thought of that before you stole from your daughter, Mrs. Last Name." Motion granted. Next case. It was done. Their accounts were locked. The chaos started within 48 hours. The first call came from the wedding planner, a woman named Francesca who'd been coordinating everything for the Italian venue. I wasn't supposed to hear the conversation, but Vesper was on speakerphone in the kitchen, her voice shrill and panicked. "What do you mean the payment didn't clear?" Vesper demanded. "I sent it last week." "The wire transfer was rejected by your bank," Francesca said, her Italian accent thick. "We need the final payment of $50,000 or we cannot hold the venue. The contract is very clear. There must be a mistake. Try again." "We have tried 3 times, Signora, each time rejected. The payment must clear by Friday or we must release the date to another couple." Vesper was frantically trying to log into her bank account on her phone, her hands shaking. "This can't be happening. This can't be happening." Then came the call from the caterer, then the florist. Then the photographer, one by one. Every vendor whose final payment was due began calling to say the checks had bounced, the transfers had failed, the credit cards were declined. Everything was frozen. Vesper screamed at Thatcher to fix it. Thatcher called their lawyer, who explained that the court order was absolute. No transactions without prior approval, and the judge wasn't going to approve tens of thousands in wedding expenses while a lawsuit about stolen education funds was pending. The wedding machine was grinding to a halt, and there was nothing they could do. The cancellation happened on a Wednesday afternoon, 3 days after the accounts were frozen. Sable came to our house. I heard her car screech into the driveway. I was in my room but could hear everything through the vents. "You told me you had the money," she screamed at Vesper and Caspian. "You promised me the wedding was fully funded. I've been posting pictures. I've sent invitations. 200 people are expecting a castle in Italy." "We did have it," Vesper said, her voice defensive. "Your daughter froze our accounts. Because you stole from her," Sable shrieked. "My parents just asked me if the rumors are true that you stole college money for our wedding. I look like a fraud. I look like I'm marrying into a family of criminals." "Sable, please," Caspian begged. "We can fix this. We can postpone, do something smaller. Postpone." Her voice went deadly quiet. "You want me to tell everyone we're postponing, after I've posted everything, after my dress has been altered? After your mother threw me a shower. The Italian venue gave them one last chance. Come up with $50,000 by Friday or lose the date permanently. They couldn't do it. Every account was frozen. Every credit card maxed out. Every asset tied up in the lawsuit. On Friday morning, Vesper had to call the venue and cancel. I listened to her make that call, her voice hollow and defeated. Then she had to call the caterer, the florist, the photographer, the hotel blocks. One by one, watching her dream wedding for her golden child disintegrate. That afternoon, Sable's social media posts started disappearing. The castle photos, the dress photos, everything. And then she posted one final message. "Sometimes things don't work out the way you plan. Wedding postponed indefinitely." That evening, Caspian came home alone. Sable had broken up with him and flown to her parents' house. The wedding was dead. Vesper tried one last desperate move. She went on a family-wide offensive, sending a group email to every relative explaining that I had maliciously and illegally frozen their accounts out of pure spite, that I was trying to destroy Caspian's happiness, that I was mentally unwell and needed intervention. But Alaric had prepared for this. With my permission, he released a carefully worded public statement attached to the court filing, which was public record. The plaintiff's lawsuit concerns the misappropriation of $152,000 from a legally designated education trust. The defendants have admitted, on recording, to taking these funds, and spending them on expenses unrelated to the plaintiff's education, in direct violation of their fiduciary duties as custodians of a UTMA account. The court-ordered asset freeze is a standard legal protection to ensure the plaintiff can recover her stolen funds. The family group chat, which I'd been removed from weeks ago, apparently exploded. Renly, my cousin who'd always been kind to me, forwarded me screenshots. People were reading the court documents. They were seeing the bank statements. They were reading Grandma Etta's letter. The narrative was shifting. Aunt Tessa, who'd called me disgusting, sent a new text. I had no idea it was a legal trust. I'm so sorry, Katori, they stole from a child. Uncle Paulo, your grandmother set up that money specifically for you, and they spent it on a wedding. The family started turning. Not all of them, some stayed loyal to Vesper out of habit or fear. But enough turned that suddenly Vesper and Thatcher were the pariahs, not me. Their perfect image had finally cracked. The summary judgment hearing happened 4 weeks after the wedding cancellation. I sat in the courtroom with Alaric while my parents sat across the aisle with their attorney, who looked deeply uncomfortable. The judge had reviewed all the evidence, the UTMA documents, the bank statements, the recordings of Vesper admitting what she'd done, Grandma Etta's letter, the social media posts bragging about the venue. The judge didn't need long to decide. This is one of the clearest cases of breach of fiduciary duty I've seen, she said, looking directly at my parents. You were custodians of a trust account. That position came with legal responsibilities. You violated every single one of them. You didn't just make a family decision, you committed theft. She ruled for me on every count. Full repayment of $152,000. Interest calculated from the date of withdrawal. My legal fees, which had reached nearly $30,000. Punitive damages of $50,000 because their conduct had been so willfully wrongful. Total judgment, $247,000. How do you expect us to pay that? Thatcher asked, his voice broken. We don't have that kind of money. Then you'll liquidate assets, the judge said coldly. You'll sell property, you'll cash out retirement accounts, you'll do whatever is necessary. You have 90 days to pay in full or I'll authorize seizure of assets. This hearing is concluded. They'd spent my college fund in a week. Now they had 3 months to come up with $250,000. Their lawyer explained their options as we filed out of the courtroom. I heard the words vacation cabin, 401k, home equity. They were going to be financially gutted. The payment meeting happened in Alaric's office on a cold Tuesday afternoon, exactly 87 days after the judgment. My parents had liquidated everything. Their vacation cabin in the mountains, sold at a loss in a desperate quick sale. Thatcher's retirement 401k, cashed out with massive tax penalties. A home equity line of credit that would haunt them for decades. They came into Alaric's office looking like ghosts. Vesper had aged 10 years in 3 months. Her hair had more gray than I'd ever seen. Thatcher wouldn't look at me. His shoulders were slumped, his suit hanging loose like he'd lost weight. The bank representative verified the cashier's check, $247,000 made out to me. All the money I was owed plus what their theft had cost me. Alaric slid the check across the table to me. I picked it up, feeling the weight of it. This rectangle of paper represented my future, yes, but it also represented their consequences. Are you happy now? Vesper whispered, her voice hollow. You destroyed this family, everything we built, everything we had, gone because you couldn't let your brother have one special day. I looked at her, really looked at her. I waited for guilt to come, for regret, for some desire to take it all back. Nothing came, just clarity. You destroyed this family the moment you stole from me, I said quietly. I just balanced the books. I stood up, tucking the check into my bag. You taught me something valuable, though. You taught me that blood doesn't mean loyalty. You taught me that fairness matters more than peace. And you taught me to stand up for myself even when everyone says I'm wrong. I walked toward the door. Thank you for the lesson. I packed my things over the next week. I'd been staying with Renly since the asset freeze, but now I had enough money for my own place. I didn't tell my parents I was coming to get my stuff. I just showed up on a Saturday morning when I knew they'd be out. Caspian was there, though. I found him sitting on the front porch steps, head in his hands, staring at nothing. He looked up when I approached. Sable's engaged to someone else, he said without preamble. Some guy with family money. She moved on in like 3 weeks. I didn't say I was sorry because I wasn't. I'd tried to warn them all that building a life on stolen foundations wouldn't end well. She was never right for you anyway, I said, unlocking the door. She was right for the money, he replied bitterly. That's all she ever cared about, and I was so stupid I thought she loved me. I started carrying boxes to my car. Caspian didn't help, just sat there looking defeated. On my last trip, he spoke again. Do you hate me? He asked. I thought about it. Did I? No, I said finally. I don't hate you, I just don't respect you. You're 26 years old and you've never fought for anything because everything was handed to you. Maybe losing Sable and the wedding will teach you something useful. Like what? Like the value of things you actually earn yourself. I closed my trunk and got in the car. I looked at him one last time through the windshield. He looked small and lost, and part of me felt bad. But then I remembered that zero balance. I drove away without saying goodbye. 2 weeks later, I sat in a lecture hall at my dream university. The tuition was paid, all 4 years in full. No loans, no debt, no strings attached. I opened my laptop and checked my bank account. The balance was healthy, comfortable, mine. A notification popped up, an email from Vesper. The subject line, please. I hovered my mouse over it, debating whether to open it. Curiosity won. Katori, I know you don't want to hear from me, but we're drowning. The mortgage is coming due and we're 3 months behind. Your father might lose his job from the stress. I'm begging you, we need a loan. Just $50,000 to get caught up. You have money now. Please help us. I know we made mistakes, but we're still family. Mom. I read it twice. Felt the old familiar pull of guilt and obligation trying to surface. The conditioning of 24 years saying family helps family. Then I thought about Vesper's laugh when I'd asked about my college fund. About her calling me dramatic and selfish. About her telling me to just get loans while she spent my inheritance on a party. I moved the email to trash without responding. The professor walked to the front of the lecture hall. Welcome to Introduction to Ethics and Justice, she said, writing on the board. This semester, we'll explore what it means to do the right thing even when it's difficult. I smiled and opened my notebook. My name is Katori. And I already learned the most important lesson of all, that standing up for yourself isn't cruel, even when people call it that. That protecting your future isn't selfish, even when family says it is. That sometimes the right thing feels terrible until enough time passes to see you saved yourself. I own my future now, fully, completely, and nobody could ever take that away from me again.